All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's movie has the following from. Fuck. Has the following tagline.
Let's do it again. Start over.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the following movie tonight has the following tagline. Welcome to the front line. What do you think about that one?
I like the welcome to the front line tagline, especially when we talk about such a important film, which is Civil War. That's what we're going to be discussing today. So,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats because MovieByte podcast starts now. All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good morning. Good afternoon. I don't think I said it in order, but who gives a fuck, right?
It's your show. You do whatever you want to do.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Anybody that's tuning in right now, my name is Ruben. I am your host for tonight. With me, the last movie critic. Tonight, we're going to be discussing Alex Garland's Civil War, not to be confused with Captain America: Civil War. Complete different movie. Complete different genres. So Alex Garland's Civil War. But before we dive into the movie, I got a couple of announcements. So last week we asked our viewers to help us pick next week's movie. A lot of you that tuned in through the decade of the 80s and then the genre of thriller. So 80s thriller was the subject. After a long time of Google search, it came down to 3 movies, which were The Terminator, Predator, and The Thing. And by The Thing, I mean John Carpenter's The Thing. And we have decided the next week's movie will be John Carpenter's The Thing. So that will be next week's movie that we will break down for all of you. And I ask the same for anybody that is watching, throw another decade and genre throughout the show so we can pick the movie after next week. And after that, our season finale will be July 2nd. And we'll close out the season with Ryan Gosling's Drive. All right. So that will be our season finale. We'll take a break from there. And we plan to be back with season 4 of MovieByte podcast second week of September, most likely. And we'll pick a nice movie to start the season with that one. All right. How you doing today, bro?
I'm ready.
You're ready?
This is the movie that I've been looking forward to see for the longest time. Obviously, me and you, we both love hate Alex Garland. He had some great movies and not so great. Previous one called Men,
which I have not seen.
And
you took the bullet for that one.
I'll save you some time. Yeah. It's just it went over my head. I guess again, not the cleverest person in the world, but I couldn't figure out what that movie was about and why he wanted to make it, and just it was all over the place. I couldn't figure out to save my life to explain what that movie is about. But that being said, it's good we're not talking about that movie. We're talking about the Civil War. Cautionary tale. I mean, this is pretty scary. This is pretty close to home.
It is intense, you know. I mean, you mentioned you saw this movie when we brought back, you know, we started doing this again when we were doing Dune 2. And then a matter of weeks, it came out to buy and rent. You and I went on it and, you know, I saw it. And I mean, what I like is you normally hyped up movies, and you and I have a history of when you hype up movies and then I'm not satisfied with them. So you did a really good job not hyping it up, because damn, this movie is amazing. And we're going to break that down deeply, because it's, I mean, this is probably one of Alex Garland's best work
it's
today.
Out there.
I mean, it just brings me back memories to 28 Days Later.
Well, like that's what he's known for. Is
he? I mean, he's got more credit, and I'm gonna dive into that before we go into the plot, which is your section, and then we analyze the whole thing.
Well, I got the easy job for me today to
Oh,
explain the plot of this movie. It's like you can probably like 5 minutes or less. We can time it. Yeah.
but the good thing is that after we say the plot, there's so much layers into that at least I found when I was watching the movie for a second time. So Civil War, it got released earlier this year in April. If I'm not mistaken, April 12th, 2024. It is A24, produced by A24, the art house that has given us hits like Hereditary, Midsummer, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I always forget that title, but it's an amazing movie that won a bunch of Oscars like 2 years ago. Has given us other pieces of work like The Iron Claw, Uncut Gems. They have a lot of good movies out there. If you have Max, you can actually stream their entire library now as part of a partnership deal they did. It's A24's the most expensive film to date in terms of production, with a budget of about $80 million, and it grossed in the box office about 114. If I'm mistaken, being A24's second highest grossest film to date.
What's the first?
The first, I had that somewhere written here. I completely forgot. So if anybody's out there can find it, let me know. I think it is Hereditary, like the highest grossing film for them.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I never want to watch that movie again.
Yeah, me neither. So Civil War is directed by Alex Garland, who started by writing novels. He is the original author of The Beach, which was adapted by Danny Boyle, starring Leonardo DiCaprio in 2000. He would later write for Boyle, which is funny because Boyle adapts a novel by him, and then he hires Garland to write a great movie that we all know, 28 Days Later, starring the great Cillian Murphy. Danny Boyle reintroduced the zombie genre with that film, 28 Days Later. Such a great film. It sucks that you right now can't stream it or buy it because of a deal they got going on between Fox and Sony. Hopefully, with 28 Years Later coming out later next year, they can re-release it and we can all be happy. But Alex Garland also went to write Sunshine, which was also directed by Boyle. And he will also be writing 28 Years Later, which also reunites him again with Mr. Danny Boyle, and Cillian Murphy has confirmed that he will be part of that film as well. I didn't know this, but I found out that he also wrote Dread with Carl Urban.
Yep.
I totally forgot about that little fun fact of Alex Garland. Alex Garland had his first film as director credit with Ex Machina, which if you guys have not seen yet, we did cover Ex Machina in one of our earlier seasons on MovieByte podcast. He followed by with Annihilation, which is based on a novel of the same name. Both of those movies were great success for him. And then he did Men, which we briefly mentioned at the beginning of this show, which was not a success for him. And then Civil War, which is the movie we're speaking about today. Which after this film, Alex Garland has said in multiple interviews that he will take a break from directing and focus on writing. So I think Civil War kind of had a toll on him.
Yeah.
Casting. This movie stars Kirsten Dunst, which we all know as our 2002 crush for any high school or teenager out there, myself included. When she was cast as Mary Jane Watson in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. She went to portray that character 3 years into that. She's also famous for Bring It On, Virgin Suicides, her breakthrough film, obviously Interview with a Vampire, starring Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. We also have Wagner Moura, a Brazilian actor who is famously known for portraying Pablo Escobar in the Netflix TV show Narcos. We have Cailee Spaeny, who... her breakthrough role came from Pacific Rim Uprising. She also starred in Bad Times at El Royale.
Which, I hyped out.
Which you hyped that one out for me, and that was an awful movie.
I like that one.
I don't know. I think you hyped it too much for me, so it's one and done for me. But
she was in what is that with Kate Winslet, that TV show from HBO, wasn't she?
Mayor of Easttown. She was in Mayor of Easttown. That's right.
That's a pretty good show.
She was also in Devs, which was produced and created by Alex Garland, the
That's
FX show.
right. That's
Yeah,
quite a miss.
I never got into it. I think you saw a couple episodes and you told me
no, I
don't.
actually watched the whole thing, but
Yeah.
it had a very interesting premise, but it took its time to get there. Like it's I think it's 8 episodes, but they're dragging so much. Yeah, so I would say skip that one. But
yeah. And then most recently, she was in Priscilla by Sofia Coppola, where she portrayed Priscilla Presley.
You took that bullet from.
I took the bullet for that one. It is an A24 movie. She's amazing in it, but the movie is not. I cannot see Mr. Jacob Elordi as Elvis Presley. It was not sold on me. Given the movie is a different take on Elvis bio, it tells the story from Priscilla Presley's point of view. So any Elvis fans out there, if you want to give it a shot, go for it. But it's not the best Elvis movie out there. Hence, again, it's not about Elvis. And then Jesse Plemons in a uncredited role. He actually had no plans in starring in this movie, and he landed the role based on a suggestion by his wife, Miss Kirsten Dunst, after the original actor that was hired to portray that character in that famous scene in Civil War dropped out unexpectedly. It was then that Kirsten Dunst suggested Alex Garland to cast Jesse Plemons, and the rest is history. So Jesse Plemons receives an uncredited cameo role in this film. He is not billed, but he steals the show, as we all know. Yeah, Jesse Plemons, right?
The guy can play most evilest person with the just the like his the less he talks, the softer he talks, the sweeter he is, the more chilling is his performance.
You're right. And I was watching clips. I was like browsing on YouTube, like just trying to see clips about Civil War and him. There's not that much out there other than the movie scene. But I came across this clip of how Jesse Plemons played different characters. And even in Game Night, he plays like the neighbor. And he's terrifying in that movie, right?
Creepy as hell.
And the moment I saw him in Breaking Bad, granted, that is not his first role. He was famous for Friday Night Lights. That was his breakout role. But the moment I saw him in Breaking Bad as Todd, and then after that, he went to get known as Meth Damon throughout the internet world. Because he looks like he looks a little bit like Matt Damon. So everybody calls him Meth Damon because of his character in Breaking Bad and how but man, Todd was such a hateable character in Breaking Bad season 5. It's so great. But Jesse Plemons, great. And then obviously we can't forget Nick Offerman, who we all know from Parks and Recreation, one of his best known roles, with a very rare no mustache or beard because he's always either having some facial hair. He portrays the president of the United States he's got like 5 minutes of screen time, but he's so important to the story.
Less than that, but
but we'll go deeper into that. And then other than that, other fun fact that I found, and then you can probably see this in the featurettes, is that the film they use a gimbal to shoot the entire film. They use a DJI Ronin 4D camera. They didn't really have any big cameras on set. They had the camera just following the actors pretty much on everything, and you can see that when you're watching the film. You can see that you're part of that, especially in those intense scenes, and especially in the vehicle, the conversation in the vehicle. They pretty much were just on there too, they were using those type of cameras. So I found that very interesting as the way they filmed this movie. All right, so that being said, let's go into the plot. What is Civil War about?
So Civil War, as the title suggests, is the movie about country divided, and it does not really go to explain how it got divided or what's the actual main reasoning that people took the guns and kind of went at each other's throats. What we understand is that the president took the third term, which is obviously unconstitutional, and in this scenario, the flag that they show it here. Those are Western forces where the Texas and California united, and
Yeah,
obviously this is, you can tell that this is not in this lifetime, or because I don't see how Texas and California would ever unite. But
it's a big what if, but yeah,
I mean, obviously it's I don't even know what year they kind of like.
there isn't. Yeah,
It does not give you the actual date, or so it could be like 2020s, could be 2030s, could be 2040s. We're not really sure what the timeline is, but so we start off as our main characters. I'm gonna call them by their character names. So Lee,
yeah,
Kirsten Dunst. She's a journalist. She's a photographer. She's been all over the world. She's a war photographer, so she takes pictures and brings them back to the public to kind of have the warning signs about what war can do. And like her main idea was that she took all these pictures outside of the United States that just trying to warn us to not ever follow the suit and bring the word to our doorsteps. But as you mentioned in our tagline, that in this reality, or in this scenario, the war is here.
yeah.
And they pretty much just want to the company of four. So it's Kirsten Dunst, Joel, Wagner Moura. Again, I'm gonna butcher these names, so I apologize to anybody who's gonna get who's gonna hear this. Jesse, which is Cailee Spaeny. Yeah, that's
Cailee
our
Spaeny. Yeah,
Cailee Spaeny, and Sammy. These four go on a drive, on a mission to go to the Washington D.C. from New York, and the whole trip takes, I think, original mileage is like 858 something, because they wanted to like circle around and not go directly because of the fighting, and they couldn't make it straight to DC to photograph how either, well, according to this timeline already, Washington is kind of ready to surrender, or is going to be close to the fight that it will be determining the outcome of the whole war.
yeah,
So Joel wants to take an interview from the president, which have not had an interview in like 14 months, some number like that.
yeah,
Sammy wants to write a story as well. According to, if I'm not mistaken, in this world, he works for New York Times. And then Jessie, she's the newcomer,
yeah.
wants to take pictures, I guess, as well. So that's kind of the plot. It's their way of going from point A to point B. We get very little insights of why this war is happening, but like I don't think there's a point to go and figure it out, like why this is happening. The main idea here, and what Alex Garland is showing us, is what would happen in a country divided, and how these events would play out. And I mean, we see little gruesome scenes, some grotesque scenes, but nothing extra violent, I would say. I mean, there's some violence, but it's not what could have been shown. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that kind of are mellowed down for the dramatic effects. But what I'm gonna say is the actual fight scenes. I mean, they're out there.
Oh, I
Uh,
mean, the Gallon can, I mean, direct a hell of an action scene. I'll give him that.
I mean, I got that Heat vibe, especially
Mm,
the last like 20 minutes, where you
yeah.
just guns blazing, um, really kind of realistic. And I don't want to say like it's kind of video gamey, but it did have that little feeling that you're part of. I mean, it's a movie. It's a kind of video game. It's just, I don't know. It felt it. How do I put it properly? Like it just felt very artsy, I guess. Like the whole, it's choreographed, very stylish.
Yeah.
Um, just kind of like didn't feel like a real war. And I again, I'm all against any kind of military conflicts, and I hope that every war would end and we will not start the new ones. That's just my position on life, and I hope everybody comes back. But yeah, so while they go on this trip, I think this is my favorite part. Like when what we're showing about these two guys,
Yeah.
when they're being asked like, "Hey, what is going on? Which side are you on?" And the guys are like, "What do you mean sides? Like
Somebody's shooting at me, so I'm gonna
some
shoot
yeah,
back.
somebody's trying to kill me, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to kill them." And that just realization of like, this is our neighbors, this is the people who we stood in line for Starbucks. This is the guys, we shared movie seats next to each other, and
Mhm.
now we have to shoot to protect our lives. And it's scary. And with all the things happening around us, and the political climate, and how we already seen what can happen when angry mob does not get their way, it's scary. Like, this is real life scary movie. Like, I was not
It's
uh,
intense.
yeah, it's not easy to watch something like this, especially in a nowadays atmosphere, and what's happening in the states, and how everybody's, I mean, and I don't want to say divided, but I say everybody has their own opinion, and they're very strongly enforcing that opinion, or like their view of the world, or view of the politics in this country. I mean, I don't know. It's a very good warning to all of us, to kind of, hey.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the plot is pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. There's nothing. I couldn't find any hidden meaning behind everything. It just straightforward. Four guys going on a quest to reach the White House and talk to the president. I
Yeah.
don't want to go away into like, I guess, spoilers. It's fairly fresh movie, so maybe some of our guys, some of our viewers may still see it. It's not really that much to spoil it about this movie. I mean, it's you can you go into this movie expecting the action of the war movie, and
Yeah.
you get that. Like, there's, I don't know.
It is a different type of movie because I mean, the first time I heard about Civil War, I thought it's gonna be a movie where we were gonna go into this fictional story where we see how the Civil War, this big what if scenario of the Civil War starts, and we see the sides, and you as a viewer, you're trying to find who you're rooting for, because you're always like, there's got to be some good guys, there's got to be some bad guys. But the first time I saw this movie, there's nothing like that. Like, you don't know what side to root for. Like, you don't know why there was I mean, yes, they mentioned something in between conversations and how it's written. Like, the president used weapons on American citizens, and that triggered it. And that's what you can hint if when you're listening to the movie or watching it. But there's no other detail. Like, this is how it started. Like, normally in these type of movies, on your average movie, you'll have like a prologue that tells you
Yeah.
the year is 2027. America's at war with itself. The Western forces have joined with these states to fight the loyalists, to defend the honor of the American state, the United States of America, with a tyrannistic dictatorship precedent. Like, you will expect that from a title card or a narrative voice, right? Maybe like Kirsten Dunst saying that, right? But you don't get that. And that's what Alex Garland makes so great, is that he makes a movie where I'm not going to give you your traditional war movie. I'm going to give you a story about photojournalists going from one place to another and what they would see on that road trip. And like the behind the scenes, like, these are the people that put their lives at risk just to get the best shot to be able to document, right? I found that very interesting when I was watching this movie.
And it looks gorgeous.
It is.
This movie is very well filmed. Cinematography is exceptional. That fire, the forest on fire scene,
Yeah, that's a great scene.
is just spectacular. Like you feel like you're there. Obviously, the scenes that we mentioned are they hit hard. And Jesse Plemons, "What Kind of American Are You?" It's just brutal. That whole 5 minutes, as you said, uh, the show stealer, and
Yeah.
he's just so unsettling. Like, yeah,
I think it just makes it even more unsettling. He's wearing sunglasses with heart-shaped sunglasses on them.
it.
And you're like, this guy doesn't
like,
give. Oh, they're not heart shaped, but they're red sunglasses. So it kind of like looks like he picked them up from a dead body and he put them on.
Yeah, though. Yeah, and they unloading like dead bodies.
Bro, I mean, yeah, it's intense. Like that was the scene that I was already tense watching it, and when that scene happens, and and he does what he does in that film in that scene. Like I actually like startle myself because I'm like, fuck, this is it felt real. Like it felt to me like I was watching a documentary of like we were at war. I mean, I know you did mention that, but it just fuck, man.
When I sent you the trailer, I don't know if you remember. I said, "Hey, the new documentary." I said
You did. I remember you
I
did.
did not know that the A24 made documentaries. And you said, "What do you mean?" And I sent you the trailer, and you said, "You a dick." And I said, "Well, it's
because I didn't know you were. I mean, I don't know if you were being sarcastic about it.
I mean, no, I knew it's a movie, of course.
Yeah,
I just tried to troll you a little bit, but
you did. I do remember that they called you a dick after that.
Yeah, but to be fair, this movie is like it sends the message loud and clear, and I don't know what else to kind of add on to that. It must watch. In contrast to what we had out for the past whatever couple years, it definitely stands out as a movie which I would definitely recommend.
How many times have you seen this movie?
I've seen it 3 times so far, but I'll be honest with you. It's like the first watch was the one which just blew me away. The second one kind of like, okay, it's I see the parts I like. I see where we could have just fast forwarded a little bit faster, see maybe some cuts. And the third time, it's the feeling kind of goes away. And obviously, it's been like what since the movie came out, 2 months.
2 months, about 2 months.
So
yeah.
Maybe a little bit too saturated for me, but it's I would say one and done type of movie. Maybe you can revisit it in a couple of years to watch it again. You can probably watch the last 20 minutes just to get that.
Yeah. I
And
feel, yeah. I mean, I don't agree with you. I don't think it's a one and done. It's definitely maybe a movie that you can probably revisit at least once a year. And I feel like that with every Alex Garland movie. I mean, look at Ex Machina. It's a type of movie that you watch it one time, and you just got to put it back because the scene at the gas station. That's very. Yeah, that comment right there. That's. I actually have notes. I'm gonna break down. I did take notes on that scene because I found it very real. Like I was saying,
technically, money is not backed up by anything anymore since 1971, when Nixon just said, "Hey, we're not giving you your gold," because people started asking him for like gold. All the countries where
I just found it ironic how like that particular, since we're gonna bring it up, the Canadian currency has more weight than the actual American, that which we know, like politically and economically speaking, like the American dollar doesn't have much weight pretty much compared to anything in the world. But I just found like the value of the Canadian currency in this film, like in this what if scenario, the fact that she immediately said, "Hey, I'll give you $300 for gas," and they're like, "That's nothing."
You can get sandwich. We
Yeah, you
have
can get a
ham
sandwich
and
for that,
cheese.
and she's like Canadian dollars, and he's like, "Hold on,
Yeah.
now we're talking." Right, just to get gas, like that's how like this what if scenario is like what if we were living in a world where like our dollar was not worth nothing at all, and we're in a war, and the only way you can get by with goods is if you have something of worth, which in this movie is Canadian money. That was I really liked that part in the terms of the storytelling and writing from Garland. But back to Garland, like I was saying, like I feel this is a movie that you can watch once a year, like Ex Machina. I have to revisit Annihilation. I'll admit I haven't seen I think I've seen Annihilation only once, and I think I owe it to watch it one more time to at least see it again so I can fully understand it, because I enjoyed the movie. It was a beautiful film. It had great leading actresses on it, but I felt a little confused by watching. Maybe I didn't pay the right attention, but I think I owe it to give it another shot. Obviously, I'm not going to watch Men because we all know that you took the bullet for that one.
Yeah.
But Ex Machina is a film that I at least visit once a year. I enjoy what. Yeah.
I agree with you. Ex Machina is fantastic, and especially like when you watch it with somebody who haven't seen it. Like I love their reaction. It just when the movie ends and you just look at the person who you watched with, and they're like, "Wait, did she just do what she just do?" Yep. That's the whole. That's the whole plot. And same thing with that Annihilation. Like you pick up bits and pieces here and there. And obviously the ending is just mind blowing. It open for interpretation, but I feel like I understand what happened there, but again, it's just my opinion. And Civil War, again, love the movie. Not trying to nag on it, but it just that watching it over and over, I don't know, it just does not have that appeal in my eyes. But watch it once. I say it's a really good plot.
What do you make of that? Did I miss a scene where people were fleeing to Canada, or Canada was the financial capital? So to answer that question, there is no scene, there is no telling that people were fleeing in Canada. This is a what if movie where the United States is at war with each other. So obviously other countries will have a higher value because they're not the ones at war.
Yeah, they have stability. So you don't have that deflation of the money where the currency no longer kind of matters because the country is kind of in ruin. So what does money? Like you can go and loot, like, well, you can get all the stuff that you need technically.
Because I mean, obviously they probably use Canada in this film because it's our neighbors up north, but it would have probably worked too if they used a different currency that wasn't the U.S. dollar. But I think Canada, because it's our neighbors up north, if anybody was going to flee a civil war, it would be up north because it's easier point of entry with these what if scenarios. To be completely honest, one thing I like since it's the opening scene. Where we see the president of the United States rehearsing the State of the Union, and he's trying to come different ways in tone to proclaim that they are close to victory. And I like how the movie opens with that, because you're like, oh, so I guess the team that is with the president of the United States is winning. But throughout the movie, you start learning that the Western forces are actually overtaking DC, and the president of the United States about to lose this war and pretty much surrender. But I like how he's practicing the tone to deliver the message to sound believable. And then the scene opens up with him delivering the final line of like, "Hey, we are very close to victory." I just found it the way that he's gaslighting to make sure that he's to let the audience know in the media that everything's under control. We're not losing this war, but behind the scenes, he is, right. I found that very funny.
it's also really cool, like when in the beginning of the movie he's all collected, he's all
Yeah.
macho, and at the end
Oh
of the
yeah.
movie it's a completely different person. It's like the guy who's begging
Yep.
for his life. It's yeah, what
The
goes
other
around.
scene I took notes from, it's the hotel scene. You know, when Lee, which is portrayed by Kirsten Dunst, kind of sets up the mood of the story. When Jesse, the young photojournalist, was portrayed by Cailee, um, meets her and says, "Hey, you're my role model. I've been following you." Which actually, fun fact, Cailee Spaeny, Kirsten Dunst was her real role model. So that scene, she channeled that um, like fanship she had for Dunst when she portrayed that lines. But what I like is how Lee sets her up to say, "Keep the jacket, but next time I see you, you better be wearing Kevlar and a helmet." Because this is a very naive young photojournalist who's been out on the field and she doesn't know what she's getting into. And she's out taking photographs with like no protection at all and risking her life. And like Kirsten Sun's like, you need to be wearing Kevlar and a helmet because next time you do this, you might get shot for real, right? I enjoy that. The other thing I really enjoy is the flashback scenes that Kirsten Dunst has in the beginning of the film, where it kind of like shows you a life of a photojournalist, a war photojournalist, the things that they see, and as because of their profession, they can't intervene because it's not their job, and they might fight with this moral dilemma of like, should I've stopped this or no? And they're just so desensitized to violence. They just take the photo and move on. I like how that sets up also like the mood into the movie.
I just want to add real quick.
Yeah.
I like when people, so let's say on Reddit, there's a let's say a video of some kind of nature cruelty where one animal is attacking another animal or something like that in some sort. And a lot of comments are like, "I cannot believe this guy's filming it and not helping the animals."
Mm.
And it's like, bro, do you understand? Like this is their like if they would be helping every single time that there will be no videos. Like he
Mm-hmm.
would be filming. But that's the thing, that these guys, they have to this kind of detach themselves from this reality, and they just kind of witnessing it so they can share it with us. And we,
Yeah.
as Kirsten Dunst, as her character says, like my job is not to ask questions, my job is to deliver photos. And so people who weren't there asked questions. And that's my thing.
Do you think journalists have an obligation to do all they can to stop a crime in progress rather than sit back and be an observer? I'm speaking
uh,
specifically about the gas station scene with the two dudes handcuffed on a beam. I mean, if a reporter uncovers a sex trafficking ring, videotapes the crime, then rush to get it to the 6 o'clock news, would you have a problem with it?
well, I guess I answered that question
Yeah.
preemptively. So again, yeah, like there's different I guess levels of this. Obviously, if you find something as you're describing, they have moral obligation to report it to authorities. Obviously,
Yeah.
we're not talking about that. But in the meantime, like in that moment where they taking pictures, or if they recording the events, is that uh, the systems are in place, the checks and balances in the normal society, they exist for a reason. It's not their job to pass on the judgment. Their job is to film it, to collect the evidence, and then for let's say if this case gets to the court, then the court, and they will decide what to do in that specific uh,
Yeah.
case. But I feel like you have to have a thin skin to actually just record it, not do anything. It has to be a certain mentality. Like for example, I don't think I could do it. Like, but I couldn't be a doctor. I couldn't be a policeman. I couldn't. I know myself. And there's a lot of things that I can't do. But for these guys who chose that life, to be a photographer, and especially like Ruben mentioned in those flashbacks when the guy has a tire on top of him and they put the fucking gasoline and they set him on fire, and she's taking the pictures
Yeah.
while a person is being burned alive. Like, yeah, like you have to have a stomach for that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
and in this movie, we can see at the end she's starting. Uh, Everything catches up with her. Like she's starting to kind of unravel and loses a little bit of her sanity.
Yeah.
And as the dynamic in here is beautiful because as she losing her grip, the new girl Jessie gets her groove. Like she completely emerges as this new fearless photographer. And I mean, I guess we can do spoiler if you guys have not seen it.
Yeah. Before you go into that, I had to search it really quick, because we brought up this question about like the moral dilemma of a photojournalist, and I remember years ago I saw a movie that was based on a true story, and I had to look at it and I found it. There is a famous photograph by a photojournalist called Kevin Carter, and it's called "The Vulture and the Little Girl." That is also known as "The Struggling Girl." It's a Pulitzer Prize winning photograph. It shows a vulture as he in the background he's like already lurking into his next prey, and it's this little girl it's a Sudanese child starving death. The tragic story of it is that Kevin Carter won a Pulitzer Prize for this photograph, but I remember on the movie how he gets portrayed. He struggled with that moral dilemma that he took this photograph, but yet he didn't do anything to save the little girl from, I mean, what he might have been the impending doom of her dying, the vulture eating it. Right, very tragic. Um, Kevin Carter took his own life 4 months after he won that Pulitzer Prize. He couldn't live with the guilt of him being recognized with a prize for a photograph that pretty much resembled death. So it's again, we go back to like they have a job, but most likely these photojournalists do suffer from some trauma because of what they see and what they can't do to stop it. And we see that in the film, and as we were discussing. So I just had to share that because it just hit me, and I had to search it and share with everybody. But yeah, going
Bro,
back.
you went to some dark corner.
I
Jesus
mean, I
Christ.
had to. I mean, I
Fucking
remember
warm.
reading about that. We're
You
talking about
put some
photojournalism,
warning
and
on.
this is what the film brings. I had to. I'm sorry if I bring the mood down. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, the question was there. I like when
Yeah.
people ask me questions like that. Ask us questions. It just brings it more dynamic. So,
Well,
thank you for.
I'm glad you didn't bring the picture because
No,
now
I'm not gonna bring the picture.
that
No,
fucking
no.
thing is gonna live rent
But
free
if
in
you
my
ever
head.
wanna search, it's called the
No,
Vulture
no,
and the
no,
Little
no,
Girl.
no, no, no.
But thank you
Yeah. Thanks for the good question.
for that. Those are really good questions. So keep them coming if you had any more. Um, I'm losing my voice. But back
Good.
to what you were saying. I mean, we were talking about like how Jessie, who was portrayed by Cailee Spaeny, throughout the film, you start seeing her going from a young photojournalist that's afraid of taking the photo because she's seen two men being hung up, ready to be executed. But she's struggling with the moral dilemma. Like, I should have stopped it. Why didn't I just ask them not to kill them? I didn't take a single photo. And you mentioned Kirsten Dunst tells her it's not our job to ask questions. It's our job to take photos and move on. And we slowly see through the film how she's slowly like just becoming numb to it until the third act of the film. And then we were gonna dive into possible spoilers.
Yeah. So throughout the movie, on the first watch, I knew that somebody has to go at the end, and I was betting that Jesse is gonna be the one who will be
Sacrificed and
sacrificed in the name.
kill off an important character.
Yeah, like because it's Alex Garland. You
Yeah.
expect his finales to be kind of gut punching. So I really expected. I did not see him pull up the rug underneath our feet and go with a solution that he went. But it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
The younger generation, and she's fearless, and she takes pictures as it happens. And when the whole thing is over, she gets up and just moves on, while Kirsten Dunst's body lays on the floor. It's I
Spoiler.
don't know. It's sad, but it was how do I phrase it? Like
It was
we
kind of,
saw that coming. Like you saw that coming,
yeah.
and you prepared yourself.
It's a
And
pass of the torch moment.
yeah,
It's like, here, I taught you everything I needed. I mean, throughout the film, I mean, it's not like it's unexpected. She was already tired. She's fighting combat fatigue through the entire movie. She's given up, you know. She's doing it because she's got nothing else to do. And I mean, it's kind of like a pass the torch moment.
I this movie it was hard to watch. And it does not get
Was
easier.
it harder than when we did American History X?
American History X is different because
Yeah,
I feel like it's a story which does
it
not
is.
feel real. Like if it makes sense, like
No, yeah.
you can tell, like, oh, this is a fictional story. Could it happen? Yes, absolutely, it could have happened, and it's very dramatic and it's very over
Yeah.
the top with the imagery. Uh, but this is more like, hey, check this out. It can actually be happening here if you guys do not, stop and so. But I feel in my in again, this is fantasy world. I think that if we would have to take a scenario
You
of
make a
the
Jesse Plemons scene. He kills the first dude, asks everyone where they're from, then comes back to the Asian dude. He says Hong Kong, then kills him. I think the actor was beholden to the script because anyone else in that life or that situation would have said they were from one of the places. Ah, okay, that is a good point. I did thought about it when I was watching it. I mean, we're gonna talk about this scene. He brought it up. So yes, he kills one person because he's not American. He starts asking in that scene all the other people, "Are you American?" They're all like, "Yeah, I'm from Missouri. I'm from
Florida
Florida." And
and
then
then
he
Montana.
asked the other Asian in that group, "Is like where you're from?" And he's like whimpering and sobbing because he's afraid. He probably knows he's gonna get shot. He says Hong Kong, right? Um, Now you said this question in here. He says like he feels the actor was following a script. He could have had. I mean, this is written by Alex Garland. He wants to create some. He wants to create a fear and tension in that scene, which he does magnificently. I believe. I mean, I thought about it. I saw like of all the countries in the world, why wouldn't you say that you're from the United States? But yet again, we're talking about a character that Jesse Plemons is playing that it's a fascist. You really can't fool him. He already knows you're not American. He's just trying to be the guy with the gun. I'm like, I'm going to kill you no matter what you say. So I'm just trying to create fear because I'm thriving off of it. So you can tell me that you're from California, but I know you're not. So you're still going to be dead. So I feel that that's why. No, he says Hong Kong. He's afraid. He's not. I mean, he's not going to lie because I don't know, even if he did, he probably would have gotten killed anybody. But I mean, that's my thought. What do you think, really quick, about that scenario?
Um, when you're in front of the gun and the crazy dude who just shot a person, I don't think your brain processes information the same way like the normal person would think about it. Like you make obviously a great point. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
why don't you just lie? But in that situation, you can see he's frozen. He can't even speak properly.
Mm.
So when you have this simple question, you give the simple answer. You're not really thinking how you're gonna talk your way out of it. You just kind of frozen in the moment, like a deer in the headlights. Same concept. And
Yep.
the guy just tells the truth because that's the easiest thing that he can say in that moment. Obviously, you know when you're on the receiving end of this question, it's you hoping that the guy has some kind of reasonable thought process and not gonna shoot you just because where you're from. But again, you're talking about from the perspective from the guy who is
Yeah.
answering the question. When as Ruben mentioned, when you a character with Jesse Plemons portrays, yeah, they are psychopaths. They thriving. This is their. They waited for this moment for their entire life, where it's a purge, but it's 24/7 and it's
Yeah.
365. They want this. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some kind of percentage in America right now who are expecting, who are stockpiling on the guns and ammunition and all of that, and they ready for this to happen. Now, what I was gonna say before that is, if I would have to guess a scenario how something like this would have happened in this around us, I think it's gonna be more like neighborhoods against neighborhoods. Like, let's say one group does something stupid to piss off the second group. The second group goes and retaliates, and then the first group gets more followings, and they back and forth, and that's neighbor against neighbor, and until it escalates into this global conflict. I think that's what most
Yeah.
likely, because people in American, that's what my personal opinion. They really angry and they're frustrated, and the things are not going the way, American dream is dead. Like, now you work your entire life, you can't afford to buy a house, if you're a normal worker. um, I mean, back in the days, like 60 years ago, somebody who's had the high school diploma, worked as a carpenter, had 8 kids, and could afford home, and wife would stay at home mom to raise those kids. That scenario in nowadays, like, what's one single person can afford a house? Like, it's pretty
Yeah.
wild. So, and the deeper we go and the crazier things get, and when you see multi-billionaires who also live with you in the same country, and you can't afford to buy a house, so that divide is getting bigger and bigger, and people get mad at getting mad and mad. And then the funny part, that when shit goes hits the fan, they're not gonna go and find the yacht of Bill Gates, and burn it. They're gonna turn into the neighbor, the closest person, and they're gonna have some kind of beef with them.
Yeah.
And in a country with, I can't even give, somebody has to have a number of how many guns we have, but a lot. This is the only country in the world where population has probably more guns than the military. Another thing that I wish that, and I think I already mentioned it, but or to you, I don't think I mentioned it here, is that one thing that Alex Garland missed the opportunity on, is using drones as a warfare method, as a new weapon. Because if you look at what's happening in in a country where actual two major militaries are butting heads for the last 2 years, like they figured out the usage of drones to such a degree.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
extremely scary. It's a new weapon, and it's been used on a different, from surveillance to blowing up the tanks, where it's like a first person view, where it flies in, finds the weakest spot, and just penetrates that portion, which normal gun, I mean, obviously it shoots straight, so it's gonna fly straight like any
Yeah.
ammo would fly. This is completely different. um Dropping grenades on people, like, it's just missed opportunity. He could obviously could have
Yeah.
showed it. That's
Yeah,
that's
but
my
I don't
only.
think that was a story that he wanted to tell. I
I'm
mean, we
I
got the story he wanted to tell.
I know. I'm just.
Yeah.
If I have to nitpick something, we have like 5 minutes
Man, if
left.
this was maybe Michael Bay movie, we probably would have gotten that right.
Well, in any way, that was just my 2 cents. We could have. We
Yeah,
could have
I
had.
mean, but yeah, great questions. For I can't GZDR 4EV. Thank you for the last 3 comments you posted. Those have really been really good questions. So thank you thank you so much for that. I want to throw one last thing And this again, spoiler alert. I'm sorry. I just found it. I love it. It's the last line of the movie, and I had to type it down because I love it. And the final act of the scene of the movie, you know, spoiler, the president of the United States pretty much surrenders, and he's pretty much like on the floor. They got a bunch of guns on him. And Mr. Wagner Moura, who portrays, I forgot his name on
Gil.
Gil.
Joel.
What? Gil? Joel. Sorry about that.
Joel.
Yeah, Joel. So Joel is like on this, the entire movie, he's been on the purpose of like, I need to interview the president. It's been 14 months. And I love it because all he says before the final, like that final scene is like, I need a quote. And the president of the United States surrendering, he's like, don't let them kill me. And then he walks and he's like, yeah, that'll do.
That will do.
That will do. And he walks away. And that was like, I loved it. I was like, I missed that the first time I saw it. I didn't really pay attention to that. But watching it the second time, I was like, this is how you end a movie like this. It's like, don't let them kill me. Yeah, that will do. And he walks away and they finish their mission. And Jesse takes that final shot of the soldiers with celebrating with that president. Poetic. It's just beautiful. And again, that's great storytelling. They traveled through a small town who had no idea there was a war going on. It reminded me of the pandemic when Florida, California didn't have the mask rule. People walking around and walking their dogs like no care in the world.
So first of all, hold on. Let
you want to grab that one? I'm not going to touch that one.
They know that small town, when they talk to the girl, she knows what's happening, and they just choose not to acknowledge that. So they obviously know that the civil war is going on. At the end of that scene, you also, when Sammy talks to Lee, he points out, hey, just take a look at on the roofs, and you can see that they've been followed by two guys with machine guns. So it's not like they are completely blinded. It's just the ignorance is bliss. This city decides to be like, you know what? Yeah, we're just going to sit this one out. And another cool part is that when Jesse talks about her parents, she says, yes, my parents in Missouri somewhere on the farm, pretending that none of this is happening. And Kirsten Dunst's Lee character says the same thing. It's like, yeah, my father does the same thing, except on farm in Montana. So obviously, yeah, like some people would be like just going through like their normal business, like nothing.
It's not affecting me. Why should I get involved?
Yeah,
right?
Like I completely see that.
Yeah, I mean,
happening. Like you go to some city like Salisbury, like just down the road, like in their downtown, like exactly,
Lexington, Salisbury. Yeah,
you're gonna have Charlotte downtown on fire. Everybody's fighting, and then 40 miles down the road on 85, you're gonna have that same town with the same shop with the same girl, and exactly like that. It's nothing in this movie except for the drone usage. Everything else was just spot on. How if it would have happened, it's exactly how it would have happened.
Yeah. Great comparison. That's a good one.
I mean, yeah, it's
that was spot on. I wanted you to take that one because
you know what I remember when people were wearing those masks and they were wearing them like chin. Like it's just like I have a mask. Like
I got a mask,
but you have to put it on the fucking face.
Oh man, I don't miss that era at all.
So, you know what? I'm surprised nobody made the fucking comedy movie about like the pandemic. Where's the single movie from pandemic? Like nobody haven't made a movie about pandemic yet. And it's been 3 years. Like, come on.
Maybe it's too soon. I don't know.
I mean, what?
I mean, South Park kind of made a joke about like the whole mask wearing with the chin straps, you know.
Well, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They had their their take on it too.
Such a great show.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it. I think we should call it a wrap. I think we dived into it. Pretty good. More than I thought we would, and I really appreciate those questions for our user that's watching it. Those were really good. So kudos to you for bringing those up. Very valid questions. So thank you for making this very interactive. We really appreciate it. So really quick, Just to remind anybody that joined us after I mentioned these. So next week we're going to be doing John Carpenter's The Thing, based on when we asked you guys to throw a decade and a genre. At the beginning of the show, we asked if to throw us another decade in a different genre other than 80s thriller. I did see 90s comedy popped up in the comments. If there's any genres anybody wants to throw out there for next week's movie, throw them out before we wrap up. Maybe we can have an idea really quick and live, and that will follow up on comments later in the week and announce it. What I do want to announce is July 2nd will be our season finale. We'll do Drive, starring Ryan Gosling. That will be our season finale. We'll take a little break, and we'll come back September week 2. Mr. Last Movie Critic here has a nice little family trip planned for a couple of weeks. I got some summer vacation coming up, but I'll still do some little live things to either top 5 countdown or something just to keep the engagement alive. If you haven't seen our last week's episode on The Wrestler, go visit it. Very, very good show we had. Also, if you have a chance, check out our other shows from this season, starting with Dune 2, The Mummy, Prometheus as well, and The Batman. Really good shows there. Trying to think what else. Don't forget to follow us on every social media platform. We're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, Instagram. Comment, like, share, favorite, save, subscribe, hit that bell so you can get notified when we go live. Other than that, I think that's it, bro. You got anything else?
No, you covered it.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the support.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. John Carpenter's The Thing. Until then, bye.